Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel with me, Eugene. Well, the Premier League is almost back, so I decided to do something that no other football content creator has thought of. I'm going to do a table predictor for the upcoming Premier League season. I'm going to be looking at the 20 teams in the league and going from 20 to 1 to see who ends up where. Completely original idea, definitely hasn't been done by millions of people before, but it's the first time I'm doing it, so we'll see how we get on, and obviously I will review it in about 9 months time, when the Premier League season ends, and hopefully don't make a complete balls of it. There will be a lot of surprises along the way, as you know. Probably the most competitive league in the world, but we'll get straight into it, and hopefully 9 months from now I'll look kind of smart. We'll start with the bottom place team. Coming in 20th, in my opinion, will be Southampton. I don't really know what much I could say. I just think they're going to be shit, if I'm honest. Don't think they've got enough firepower. Don't think Adam Armstrong is going to be able to do much in the Premier League. Didn't last time he was there. I think he had like 4 goals the whole season. I think he's going to have Cameron Jerome syndrome and not really do much in the Premier League. They had a decent campaign in the Championship, obviously won the playoff final, but just don't see them doing much. I don't mind Russell Martin or the way they play football, if I'm honest, but it's just one of those where I don't think they're going to be that good. I think they're going to struggle to create goals, to score them. I just don't think they have enough there. They have a few defensive players I like, but really haven't done much in the window, and historically St Mary's hasn't really been a tough place to go to, and I think you need that home support to get you over the line in these relegation battles, which I'm almost certain they'll be involved in. A lot of people think they'll finish higher than that, but I personally believe Southampton are going to have a shocker of a season and go straight back down, unfortunately. Coming in 19th, joining them from the Championship to go up, and in my opinion joining them to go straight back down, is Ipswich. I hope I'm wrong. Kieran McKenna has obviously earned the hearts of so many people. He's won the hearts of the footballing community with back-to-back promotions. I've nothing against Ipswich. I think it's going to be amazing to see them back. They've not been in the league for years. I've never been able to actually watch them in the Premier League, so that'll be cool. Just to see the atmosphere and stuff like that. A bit like with Luton last season. I'm always kind of a fan of those stories. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a bit of a disaster. If you watched my podcast from a few days ago, my really bold prediction for the season, or one that I certainly hope doesn't come true, is the fact that I think McKenna's going to get sacked, which would be kind of a shame. But it is a results-driven business, and I think they'll kind of pull the plug on him a few months into the season. I just don't see them winning enough games. It's as simple as that. I think it'll be a good story while it lasts, but as I said, don't think Ipswich are strong enough, and unfortunately they'll be going straight back down. In 18th place, and rounding off the relegation teams and the bottom 3, is Nottingham Forest. So I don't think it's going to be the 3 promoted teams going down like it was last season. We'll get to the last team in just a second, but I think Forest will go down. They could easily stay up. As I said, it is such a unpredictable season, and it's really tough to see how it goes, but I just think they're a very defensive team. They've got some decent defensive players. I like Murillo, for example, but again, a bit like Southampton, don't see him scoring a lot of goals. I like Gibbs White. I think he can do a lot of good stuff for them. Very creative player, energetic, but I just see them, I think they flirted with relegation last few seasons, and yeah, teams like that eventually just, their luck runs out. I'm not the biggest fan of Nuno Espirito Santo. I know he's done some great things in the past, but yeah, I just fully believe that Forest will be joining Southampton and Ipswich in the relegation zone and going down. In 17th place, it's the other promoted team that I haven't mentioned. It's Leicester. They are odds on, I think, to go down with most bookies. Massive part of that is the looming PRSR charge, the financial kind of regulations. It's almost given that they'll be given a point deduction, just like Everton and Forest were last season. Obviously, at time of recording, nothing's been announced, nothing's been official, which I think is a bit silly. I think they should do these deductions at the start of each season, so teams know what they need to be up against and how many points they'll be deducted. But obviously that doesn't really factor into this prediction too much. I think they'll still have enough points to survive, unless it's an absolutely massive deduction. I think they'll have enough. Obviously, Jamie Vardy's 37. Has he still got the ability to score at the level that at this level with the same level of consistency that we've seen in the past? It remains to be seen. But I think they've got Stevie Cooper, who's had a bit of success with Forest, team I just mentioned, in those relegation run-ins. I think they'll just get over the line. I don't think it'll be some expansive, phenomenal team. Losing Dewsbury Hall is massive, and obviously Enzo Maresca. But in some ways, I think that managerial change could help them. Obviously, managers are so important, and I'm going to mention basically the manager of every team in this preview. But I think with Maresca, and something that Chelsea fans like me will have to get used to, is apparently he's quite, not naive, but maybe stubborn when it comes to tactics. Steve Cooper probably wouldn't be as much, and in the Premier League against teams that would be better, it might help them with the squad they've got to have someone like Cooper with the experience, with the kind of pragmatic approach that he's shown in the past. So I've got Leicester just staying up with the skin of their teeth in 17th. In 16th, I've got the Bees. I've got Brentford. I'm not the biggest fan of Brentford, if I'm honest. Just the way they play football. I know that, needs must, and I do like Thomas Frank. I like the way he talks about football. I think when he's done punditry for the BBC, he's been brilliant, and he always comes off like a really good man. But they've been in the league, I think, 3 seasons now. This will be their 4th, and yeah, I can only see them declining. I think they'll just about stay up by a few points. But yeah, I think it'll be their lowest points tally since being promoted a few years ago. They're a good club, do a lot of things right, but it'll be interesting to see kind of how the saga with Ivan Toney goes. I think on Buemo, it's going to be key to whether or not they stay up, but I can't see them really finishing any higher than this. Maybe a place or two, but I think they'll be safe, but not really challenging to finish anywhere near the top half of the table like we've seen them do in the past. In 15th, it's Everton. Unless there's another points deduction like they had last season. I think Sean Dyche, he knows this squad. He gets the best out of these players. 15th. They'll play their usual football. I think they still lack an out-and-out goal scorer, but if Calvert-Lewin hits form, and if they've anyone to kind of finish the chances they created last season, they'll be fine. I believe that they created quite a lot last year, from the points deduction off the field to just missing sitters every week on the field. Their position was almost a false position. I don't see them kind of, setting the world alight or doing anything sensational, but in my opinion, they've got more than enough to stay up. And yeah, I think they'll probably have a good last season at Goodison Park. Probably ended on a strong note with a win against one of the big boys to say goodbye to that iconic venue. But yeah, Everton 15th. The next few teams are tough for me to predict. I always struggle with the mid-table teams. I think relegation's a bit easier to deal with. It's kind of 3 teams I think are going to be worse compared to the rest. These teams, I think they'll all come within a few points of each other. Obviously, it means millions in terms of, for the owners and in terms of the prize money, but I think most fans wouldn't care too much between maybe, I don't know, these spots at 14th and 13th, but I have to predict them nonetheless. 14th, I've got Wolves. Gary O'Neill's a decent manager, but I don't think there's anything special there, if I'm honest. I don't see them reaching kind of any higher than that. They're a decent team. They lost Max Kilman, who's been a talisman for them in defence for a while. He's gone to West Ham. But yeah, I just think they'll do enough to not really be threatened with relegation and have a pretty decent season, if I'm honest with you. 14th for Wolves. In 13th place, I've got Fulham. One of these teams where I did predict in the last episode of the Offside Trap podcast that Fulham will go down. Will lose their manager. Apologies. I think Marco Silva will lose his job, unfortunately. it's one of these teams that they've done okay last few seasons, but a bit like Brentford, I just don't think. I think other teams have done good business in the last few transfer windows and will kind of move on. It's gone a bit stale at Fulham, if I'm honest with you. That's my opinion anyway. I could be proven wrong, but I just think other teams have made headway. I don't really think Marco Silva's done much wrong, and I think the squad is strong, but yeah, I think Fulham will just finish 13th. I think there's stronger teams around them. In 12th, I've got Bournemouth. They have lost Solanke to Tottenham, but they are in talks with, I think, the Porto striker, Evan Nielsen. It's not official at time of recording, but he's a man that'll get them goals, potentially. I like their wingers. I like the likes of Semenyo, and they've got enough talent there. They play a good, entertaining football under Iriola. Whether or not he can keep it up in his second season at the Southside club, it remains to be seen. But I think they'll do all right, finishing 12th. In 11th place, I've got West Ham. They're a tricky team to kind of look at. Done some great stuff in the transfer window, and I think they've already got some decent players there. I'm a massive fan of Jared Bowen. I think he's a top player, one of the best wingers in the country. I think Kudus hasn't really shown... He's shown glimpses, but I think this season might be one of those breakout years where he really kind of fulfills his potential, so to speak, and goes a level above what he's shown. But yeah, I think Julian Lopetegui isn't as attacking as a lot of people make him out to be. He's not really a manager that I think is that great, which is why I don't have them higher. I'll mention, obviously, managers for the teams I'll have above them. But yeah, West Ham, solid squad, could easily finish 10th. But yeah, I just have them finishing 11th. I don't think they'll be much worse or much better. But they've got a decent group of players there. Fulkrug as well will probably score a few goals. He's a player I like, and we'll see if the defensive issues can be resolved with the likes of Max Kilman. Also interesting to see how entertaining they really are under Lopetegui, because obviously they have had a few years with David Moyes where at times it was a little pragmatic, a little defensive, but yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll finish 11th in his first year there. 10th, I've got Crystal Palace. Big fan of their manager, Glasner. Did really well last season. They finished on 49 points. I think they'll crack 50 points for the first time since they were in the Premier League. I think this is their 13th season in the league now. So, yeah, they've been a mainstay of the team, of the league, pardon me, for the better part of a decade. They're a bit boring in the sense that they're always in the round mid-table. They're not going to challenge for Europe, but they're not really going to be fighting for their lives in April and May, hoping for survival. So I think it'll be a good season. I like Mateta. Glasner gets the most out of him. The loss of Elise is a big one. Player there, he'll obviously have to take up more responsibility in those attacking areas. It was kind of a duo of Elise and Eze, but I think he's kind of the man in those areas now. In midfield, they've got Adam Wharton. I love their defence. I think Gahey might be going to Newcastle, but I think Joachim Anderson's the most underrated centre-back in the league. So, yeah, I think they're a really good team, a really likeable team, and, yeah, fancy Palace to finish 10th. Moving up the table now to 9th, I've got Brighton. I'm taking a big risk on their young German manager who was in the second division with St. Pauli last season. He got the Hamburg side promoted to the Bundesliga. Great achievement for him. He is the youngest permanent manager in the history of the Premier League. It is a very, very tough league, obviously, media-wise. The eyeballs on it, the scrutiny. But I think he's in the right team. They're quite a set team. Gone are the days where people kind of fancy them for relegations and stuff like that. They've done quite well under Potter and De Zerbi, and they've got some great players there. A nice balance of young players and experienced lads as well. I think Pascal Gross is a big miss for them going to Dortmund in midfield, but if the likes of Balaba in midfield can, the youngster, if they can get going, I think the sky's the limit for this team. I don't see them finishing as high as they did a few years ago under De Zerbi, but I think the change of manager was needed. They've got a good young manager at the helm. and hopefully he'll be able to, for at least the first season, get the most out of this squad. They've got some really exciting players. Mitoma being back is a big benefit to them. Obviously, he had serious injuries last season, I think. It'd be interesting to see how they play. Apparently, he's an attacking manager from what we've seen in the past, and from what I've read about him, it suits Brighton. It suits these players. They are possession players. They like a pressing game. They like taking risks. The fans kind of expect it now, and I think it suits their strengths, and I'm expecting good things from Brighton this season. One team I'm not expecting big things from in the Premier League compared to last season is Aston Villa. Now, I like Villa. I'm a big fan of Unai Emery, pardon me. I think they're going to do very well in the Champions League, and I think the new Champions League format really suits them. However, I think they'll finish 8th this season. They lost Luiz and got in Onana, kind of like for like, but it's I don't know if it really is a like for like change. I think Luiz is a better player. I think Camara is injured to start the season. They lost Diaby, who I thought he was overrated last season anyway. I thought he was fairly shite for large portions of the season. Yeah, he scored the odd goal. Ollie Watkins will obviously be a massive part of any success that they have. They'll need to keep him fit and getting goals and assists. I think he led goals and assists last season in the Premier League. Obviously he was absolutely sensational last season. Hopefully he can carry that form over into this year. But I just think that the travel to and from European games and maybe putting more eggs into that basket that will hurt them. I know they've got a manager that's experienced with Europe, but maybe the squad isn't as experienced. I also reckon more teams will figure out the high line. They stuck with it all of last season. But I think you've got a target on your back. Teams really know what they're going to do now. I don't see Villa changing too much. That's not to say Unai Emery can't adapt, but I just think that other teams have got better. They'll be distracted by European football, so I fancy Aston Villa for 8th. In 7th, it's my team. Obviously wearing the jersey, as you can see, it's Chelsea. We're probably the toughest team to predict, but we're also probably the most exciting in the league in terms of you never know what's going to happen. I think in terms of talking points, we've led the league in the last few seasons. There's always something to discuss, from the ownership to maybe the fans being frustrated at certain elements of how the club is ran, to us signing a million different players. Half of them are South American guys in a creche somewhere, still loaned out for another fucking year, paying millions for guys for a long-term deal contracts. Guys we won't see touch the pitch for a while. Getting rid of certain players to kind of keep us on the right side of the financial regulations, the likes of Conor Gallagher, that whole saga. There's the treatment of guys like Gallagher and Chalobah at the moment. So there's a lot to discuss, but we've got Maresca. I'm not the biggest fan of. I can't really judge him because we've not really seen much of him. I don't really give a fuck about pre-season. No one gives a shit. Anyone that takes pre-season seriously is a weirdo. Anyone that takes time out of the day, especially on American tours and Asian tours, staying up till 3 a.m. to watch those games, get a fucking life. I don't really give a fuck about the pre-season friendly kind of stuff, but from what I've read about him, I'm not too impressed. I don't give a shit about what he's done in the Championship. This is the Premier League. We've seen guys like Potter do very well in the Premier League and then shit the bed. So I'm not too excited with him. He's got a great squad, but a massive squad. Defensively, I don't know if anyone knows our best back four. We'll see what he does with Reece James when he eventually blesses us with his presence, and his knee hopefully can stay intact for a few games. But yeah, I think we'll finish 7th. There'll be some good moments. Obviously, Cole Palmer hopefully will continue what he did last season. Head and shoulders our best player last year, probably one of our only players last year to actually do anything. All the momentum from the end of last season with Poch is kind of gone, so it is one of those things where we have to start another rebuild, trust the process once again. But yeah, I just see us finishing 7th. Could finish fucking 10th, could finish 4th. It's just the kind of squad we have. We'll see how it goes with injuries. We'll see how it goes with Maresca, but I'm not too positive. That brings us to the top 6 of the table. In 6th place, I've got Newcastle. I could see them finishing as high as 4th, but it is one I wasn't too sure of. Still kind of pulling my hair out thinking about it, but I've got Newcastle in 6th. I like Eddie Howe. I love Alexander Isak. I like what they're doing. I think St. James's Park is a fortress. If they stay fit and do see a benefit from the lack of Champions League games this season, no European football, I think they could reach the heights they did 2 seasons ago. Again, it was torn between them finishing 6th or 4th, but I've just gone with 4th for Newcastle. In 5th place, it's Manchester United. I like the new signings, De Ligt and Mazraoui. Last season, they were riddled with injuries. If Ten Hag can get the team playing a certain style, they could be a problem. I do fancy them to make Champions League. I think 5th place will be enough. And yeah, I think they just have enough firepower. Last season, they weren't great on the eye at all. Open in midfield, as open as anything. Casemiro, I mean, Jesus, he was absolutely shocking. His legs are fucking gone. Or at least it seemed so last season. But the emergence of Kobe Mainoo and a lot of key players being fit, if they can keep guys like Martinez, who I think is key at the back, fit, I think they'll do alright. And I see Man United finishing 5th this season. In 4th place, I've got Spurs. I like Ange Postecoglou. I like the way they play football. Again, they were the team I was probably going to swap with Newcastle. So if they finish 6th and Newcastle finish 4th, I will kind of regret this decision. But I think they've got enough there. Solanke's a decent player. Don't think he's going to score as many goals as he did for Bournemouth last season. But Maddison and Son, if James Maddison can stay fit, I think they're okay. And if they sort out the tweaks defensively in Postecoglou's shape, they'll be fine. Play on the front foot with those inverted wingers. I really like what I see, and yeah, I think it'll be a decent season for Tottenham. Fucking breaks my heart as a Chelsea fan, but yeah, I see them finishing in 4th place. In 3rd, this is a team that I think can go anyway. I mean, you could say that about basically most of these teams, but I've got Liverpool. We've seen a lot of teams lose a manager that's been there for years and struggle for at least a season or more. Obviously, Man United haven't really come close to realistically challenging for a title since Sir Alex left. Klopp is gone, but I think they're in a good place. I think they've got good players that fit Arne Slot's philosophy. I think they'll be exciting to watch, and if they're clinical in front of goal, I certainly think they'll create chances, and they've got the likes of Mo Salah. Darwin Núñez is chaos personified. We'll fucking see how he carries on, but yeah, if he can get a run of games where he scores, obviously Mo Salah, as I've mentioned, one of the best players in the history of the Premier League, one of the greatest players we've seen. He's absolutely sensational, and yeah, I don't see him falling off this season. It will be interesting to see how Arne Slot adapts in his first season, but if they get a defensive midfielder between now and the end of the window, I definitely think they'll finish 3rd, but I don't want to be too negative for them. It is a gamble picking them to finish 3rd, just because we haven't seen too much of them, but that's where I'm going with. And that leaves us for the top 2. I think everyone knows what the top 2 are. Everyone's predicting the same top 2, and obviously, if you're watching this video, you know who the top 2 are. They're the 2 teams I haven't mentioned yet. I've got Arsenal finishing 2nd for a 3rd consecutive season to City. I think it's Pep Guardiola's last season, and I think he'll complete the drive for 5 and go out on top. Yeah, I just think City are a better team. I like Arsenal. A lot of people feel it's their time. I wouldn't be surprised if they fall a little below expectations and finish 3rd. Maybe someone else finishing 2nd, but I think, yeah, I'll stay basic with it. I fucking hate doing it because every year people tend to predict the same top 4s, and every year there's upsets. Nobody would have picked Villa to finish 4th last season, for example, so I'm trying to throw a few curveballs in there, but for the top 2, I just can't look past these 2 teams. They've been consistently the best 2 teams in the land over the last 2 seasons. I don't see them seeing it and changing. And as much as I like Arsenal as a team under Arteta, the way they play football, there's nothing that I've seen that'll lead me to believe City will lose in the running against them. It could happen. This could be Arsenal's year. Kind of the student becoming the master, and Arteta defeating Pep to complete the trilogy, finally winning one, and Pep kind of calling it a day in the Premier League. Could happen, but I think Arsenal finish second, City finish first. If teams win every single season, I don't really see why I'd ever bet against them. Stick with what you know. First time I've done one of these videos, but obviously you make predictions to your mates and stuff like that. And over the last few seasons, I've picked City. I've been right. I'm going to continue picking City. So that is my prediction for this Premier League season. I can't wait to look back in 9 months' time and get 20 out of 20. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment below to kind of tell me what you thought. Who am I missing? Who do you think are going to be the surprise packages of the season? Who am I dead wrong about? Do let me know. And as I said, subscribe to the channel. It's the first full season we'll be covering the Premier League, and yeah, I can't wait to kind of do more bits and bobs on Spotify and Instagram. So thank you for being here at the beginning of this journey with me. I've been Eugene, and all the best. Enjoy the football. Take care.